celebration. My name is Andrea Hall. I'm a senior here and the president of Students of Color and Allies for Equity, Justice, and Inclusion, which is a club here at the Reading Memorial High School. And on stage with me is Alana Dorcas.
Thank you, Andrea. Good morning. I'm Alana Dorcas, a senior at Reading Memorial High School and vice president of Students of Color and Allies for Equity, Justice, and Inclusion. We are both so excited to be here, and we thank you for being here today for this powerful gathering. A chance to come together as a community in solidarity, appreciation, and reflection of how we are keeping Dr. King's ideals alive.
Today we gather to celebrate the outstanding legacy of Dr. King. This program includes inspiring speeches, exciting performances, and more, that all follow the central theme of beloved community. The beloved community describes a community to which we all belong, in which all live in freedom. King described it as a space of social equity and belonging, peace, and freedom from prejudice.
Before we begin, we want to remind people of the exits in the back of the auditorium. In case of an emergency, everyone will calmly file out through those doors. Additionally, restrooms can be found in the lobby right outside the doors to the auditorium.
So, without further ado, we will first welcome Albert Pless, the Director of the Office of Equity and Social Justice here in Reading, with our opening remarks.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Folks being here in the snow. Second year in a row that we've had snow in Reading at the MLK event. Raise your hand if you were here last year. Raise your hand if this is your first year here. Welcome. Let's give another round of applause for our MCs. It takes a lot of courage to get up there and stand before some of their peers, but also among adults. And so it was great to kind of see both of them as sophomores 2 years ago. And it's been great to kind of watch their journey and partner with you on events like this in Juneteenth and others. So great to have you guys around. So I just I have a couple of things to say. One is not only welcome to our event. This is the 4th year that the Office of Equity and Social Justice, my office oversees this. It's really a great opportunity to really take a pause and think about, again, the legacy of Dr. King. I'm so excited and impressed with the way that we landed on our theme of community, of beloved community, you know. And so because I think at the end of the day, it's really about us coming together and think about our commonalities, you know, as one community here in Reading. So I'm excited with the work I'm doing here in the office to kind of make that happen. Just to, share a couple of things. One is I want to make sure folks know that, there's a lot of really cool work that we're doing in the office, right? A lot of this external work you see, which is part of it, these events. We do our Juneteenth event. We did some cultural immersion series around the movie festival. We're excited about doing some other online programs online. But also we're excited about our internal work too, our staff engagement. Really working with our employees, our different departments, to really, again, make sure that we are centering, those in Reading who are kind of most marginalized, but also those who may not have a voice or feel voiceless. So excited about that work that we're doing. We're also excited, which you may have seen just blurb about this a couple of days ago, is that our new Disabilities Commission is really coming online. So Reading will have applause for that too. Reading will have its first Disabilities Commission. We're excited about bringing that work online as well as really kind of enhancing the work through our ADA. So again, a lot of great work happening. This work that I'm doing is not done at all in a vacuum. So I want to throw a couple of thank yous out there before, again, we get the rest of our program going. Again, nothing happens all this year. And so I want to thank a few folks from here. Number one is our town manager, Matthew. Throw your hand up wherever you are. Great leadership, someone you can just come sit and have a conversation with, but also, again, governs, this beautiful town of Reading. Your library director, Amy Lanning, who is probably your best library director out there, someone who has the task Supervisor Alvin Kless, who brings all kind of ideas and some wild ideas about the work that we do with all good, and Amy keeps it in a line, make sure it all happens. So thank you, Amy, for your leadership, and thank you for the guys around that. Tom Milchewski's not here, again, Tom. So Tom, our superintendent, who may be sliding through, but they got stuck in snow. Again, he's on his way out, but I want to thank Tom for his partnership with the work I'm doing here in the office. Again, he's elevating youth voice. I know he'll be missed as he's drifting down to Miami, but I think his work, as probably you guys can attest, is already been put in place for us to kind of build on that work. Now, I want to thank our elected officials, our select board members. If you're here, throw your hand up. Like I say, nothing happens without leadership, so I thank our select board members, school committee members, raise your hand. Again, these are folks, we say school committee, I say school committee, I say, select board, but it's been great to know them as individuals. Again, it's good that you can sit down with them in a town like Reading and have a conversation and work that they're doing. So folks, I wanted to take a moment, to have you get to know one another we're going to try to do this quickly. I want you to stand up and do two things. One, to stand up first. And I'm going to have you go to a person that preferably don't know, but it's fine if you do know them. Go say good morning, and I'm glad you're here. So good morning, and I'm glad you're here. Slowly make your way back to your seats. If you said that good morning and glad you're here. Two last things before I pass the mic back to our amazing MCs. Number one is we have photographers floating around. Throw your hand up, out. And when we asked you when you registered, if you did not want to be a part of the photo, we put a sticker on it. And so we want to respect that, okay? We are going to take a few pictures, one big picture at the end. We would love as many folks to be a part of that if you could. We're going to take it in your seats, and so our photographer's going to come up here and take that nice shot, and then we're going to kind of wrap up our event, okay? Okay, so I'm going to pass, again, this mic back to our MCs to guide through the rest of our program. Sit back, enjoy the music, enjoy the different activities that we're going to do, and clearly our keynote speaker. Thanks again, Will.
Thank you, Albert, for welcoming us to all to this celebration. Before we continue with today's program, we would like to read a land acknowledgement. Reading, Massachusetts is located on the city's ancestral lands of the Pawtucket Band of the Massachusetts tribe. Pawtucket, now called Lynn, is a vast territory that extends from the Piscataqua River in New Hampshire down to the Charles River. The Massachusetts tribe are the descendants of the original people from that the English first encountered in what is now the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We encourage everyone to learn more about the indigenous people that originated on this land.
Next up, we have an interfaith invocation by the Reading Clergy Association. Service through faith was an integral part of Dr. King's journey, and through this interfaith invocation, we hope to reaffirm our commitment as a community to peaceful coexist and solidarity for justice across multiple faiths. So please give it up for the Reading Clergy Association.
Good morning. I'm so glad to be here as the new clergy member and get to see who the core of the Reading community is today. My name is Reverend Mary Curlew. I'm the rector at Good Shepherd Episcopal Church.
And I'm Reverend Amelia Attridge, pronouns she, her. I'm the pastor at First Congregational Church of Reading. And we're two representatives today of a very large Reading community, Reading Clergy Association.
So some of you already have a handout. I'm going to ask you to join me in the invocation. So if you don't have it, I only made a few because I thought we'd be sitting at tables. Please pass it on to somebody else. It's easy, and so you just join along. And if you don't know the words to the song, please just go ahead and mouth peas and carrots, and it'll look like you're So there are many words, many names for the type of love that Martin Luther King Jr. preached in his desire for beloved community. Some of those words are hesed, meta, ubuntu, mahama, agape. All words that denote a deep, loyal, steadfast love, a covenant faithfulness, and merciful kindness that goes well beyond sentimental feeling or dispassionate duty. It's the type of love that Bell Hooks defined as love as an action verb, an act of will to extend oneself for the purpose of mutual, spiritual, and personal growth for the other as well as yourself. Love is as love does. This love demands a qualitative change in our souls as well as a quantitative change in how we act with justice in our lives and in our beloved community in Reading, Mass. So, since I personally believe this love is divinely inspired, and I also happen to believe Stevie Wonder's album, Songs in the Key of Life, has more than a little bit of the divine in it as well. I hope you will join me in today's invocation, taken from Wonder's song, Love's in Need of Love Today. We all know that it is. Perhaps for our celebration of the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., it could be temporarily named Meta is in need of Hesed today, or Agape is in need of Rahama today. In my Episcopal tradition, by the way, we often say written prayers together, responsively. Basically, a call and response. I say one line, you say one line. So if you humor me, I would like for us to invoke the spirit of beloved community by saying together a few of the verses of this call for a response to the need for love today. Maybe, just maybe, since we have some choir members amongst us, the spirit of this place will lead us to break into song as well. So if you have it, this is what the sheet looks like. Maybe, and for those of you who have it, there's an expectation that you're going to be really good at loud. So join me today in this invocation. Good morning, friends. It is your friendly announcer. I have serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world's disaster, could change your joy and laughter to tears and pain. Is that love's in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours and right away. Hate storm round, breaking many hearts. Stop it, please, before it's gone too far. The force of evil plans to make you its possession, and it will, if you let it, destroy everybody. We all must take precautionary measures. If love and peace you treasure, then you'll hear me when we say or sing, love with me in me. Let's do that again. Love's in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. I know some people here, love's in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. And may it be so.
Thank you to the Reading Clergy Association for that powerful invocation. Up next, we have a selection of music performed by Reading Memorial High School junior Adam Hogan.
everyone. My name is Adam Hogan. As was iterated, I am a junior at Reading Memorial High School, and the song I will be singing for you today was originally written for Elvis Presley. It is titled If I Can Dream. There must be lights burning bright somewhere. Got to be birds flying higher in the sky. Oh, blue, if I can dream of a better land where all my brothers work hand in hand. Tell me why. Oh, why can't my dreams come true? Oh, why? There must be peace and understanding sometimes. Strong winds of promise that will blow away the night. And if I can dream of a warmer sun where hope keeps shining on everyone, tell me why. Oh, why won't that sun appear? We are lost in a cloud with too much rain. We are trapped in a world that's troubled with pain. But as long as a man has the strength to dream, he can redeem his soul and fly. Oh, deep in my heart, there's a trembling question. Still I am sure that the answers go on somehow out there in the dark. There's a beckoning candle, and while I can think, while I can talk, while I can stand, while I can walk, while I can dream, please let my dream come true. Right now.
Thank you, Adam, for that amazing performance. So let's give it a round of applause once more. Next, we will invite Karen Herrick, a member of the Select Board, to read the unanimously adopted Human Rights Resolution, reaffirming the town of Reading's commitment to protecting the dignity, safety, and well-being of every person in Reading.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to be here today to share this resolution with you, and our thanks to the Office of Equity and Social Justice and the Town Manager's Office for assisting the Select Board in presenting this resolution back in December of 2025 in honor of Human Rights Day on December 10th. And I would also like to add that what makes this resolution particularly special is that it was crafted by members of this beloved community. Whereas the strength of our nation is derived from its history of diversity, that has enriched our communities with a variety of cultures, faith traditions, and viewpoints. And whereas Reading residents are committed to upholding human rights that ensure the well-being of all people in our community. And whereas our community believes in this nation's founding principle of religious freedom. And whereas our town was founded by immigrants and our own histories are shaped by the immigrant experience, we will continue to welcome new neighbors here, wherever they may come from. Here, and let it be, whereas the town of Reading welcomes and embraces all who live here, work here, are educated here, worship here, and visit here regardless of gender, race, color, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability. And be it further resolved that the Reading Select Board will continue to build trust with everyone in our community and will continue to work to ensure the safety and well-being of every person within our community. And be it further resolved that we are committed as a select board to advocating for all, engaging in partnerships and relationships that embody the principles of dignity and respect, and creating a culture of responsibility. And be it further resolved that we believe in the basic tenets of our political process. We argue, we campaign, we debate vigorously within Reading, but on the fundamental human rights protections discussed herein, we are entirely and enthusiastically united. We will fight discrimination and intolerance in all its forms. We are one town, and we will move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you, Reading Select Board, for the reading of Reading's Human Rights Resolution. Up next, we have a performance of Lift Every Voice and Sing by the Reading Memorial High School Mixed Choir under the direction of Andy Mullen. Often referred to as the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing was a hymn written as a poem by NAACP leader James Weldon Johnson in 1900. His brother, John Rosamond Johnson, composed the music for the lyrics. A choir of 500 school children at the segregated Stanton School, where James Weldon Johnson was principal, first performed the song in public in Jacksonville, Florida, to celebrate President Abraham Lincoln's birthday.
At the turn of the 20th century, Johnson's lyrics eloquently captured the solemn yet hopeful appeal for the liberty of Black Americans. Set against the religious invocation of God and the promise of freedom, the song was later adopted by NAACP and prominently used as a rallying cry during the Civil Rights Movement of the 1950s and 60s. Please welcome the Reading Memorial High School Mixed Choir.
Parker Middle School students, raise your hand. We have some elementary school students as well. I think we got one declaration.
Every voice and sing, till earth and
Thank you to the RMHS Mixed Choir. What a beautiful rendition of the Black National Anthem. Up next, we have a scene from A Raisin in the Sun, performed on camera by members of Students of Color and Allies for Equity, Justice, and Inclusion.
Lorraine Hansberry's classic play, A Raisin in the Sun, follows a Black family in Chicago whose dreams are challenged by racial segregation and financial hardship. In the upcoming scene, Benita and George's conversation reveals two sets of values regarding education. Benita believes in education as a means to understanding and self-fulfillment, while George sees education as a means to get a good job.
The difference in their views about education displays a deeper divergence between the two, one of idealism versus pragmatism. Benita believes that society must be changed through self-knowledge and thus through consciousness and celebration of one's heritage and beloved community. George and his family, however, believe that they should become wealthy and perhaps achieve respect through their economic status, which demands a certain degree of assimilation into the dominant white culture.
Without further ado, a scene from A Raisin in the Sun.
The singing of the women, singing the war songs of our fathers to the babies in the great house, singing the sweet war songs. Oh, do you hear my black brothers?
We hear you, Flaming Spear!
Telling us to prepare for the greatness of the time. Black brother.
Black brother, hell.
Benita, you got company. What's the matter with you? Walter Lee Young, get down off that table and stop acting like a fool.
Look, honey, we're going to the theater. We're not going to be in it, so change, huh? What in the name of...
Girl, you done lost your natural mind. Look at your head.
What have you done to your head? I mean your hair.
Nothing, except cut it off.
Now that's the truth. It's what's ain't been done to it. You expect this boy to go out with you with your head all nappy like that?
That's up to George, if he's ashamed of his heritage.
Oh, don't be so proud of yourself, Benny, just because you look eccentric.
How can something that's natural be eccentric?
That's what being eccentric means. Being natural, get dressed.
I don't like that, George.
Why must you and your brother make an argument out of everything people say?
Because I hate assimilationist Negroes.
Somebody please tell me what whoever means?
Oh, it's just a college girl's way of calling people Uncle Toms, but that isn't what it means at all.
Well, what does it mean?
It means someone who is willing to give up his own culture and submerge himself completely in the dominant, and in this case, oppressive culture.
Oh, dear, dear, dear. Here we go again. A lecture on the African past, on our great West African heritage. In 1 second, we'll hear all about the great Ashanti empires, the great Shanghai civilization, and the great sculpture of the Minin. And then some poetry in the Bantu, and the whole monologue will end with the word heritage. Let's face it, baby, your heritage is nothing but a bunch of raggedy-ass spirituals in some grass huts.
Grass huts? See, you are standing there in your splendid ignorance, talking about people who were the first to smell iron on the face of this earth. Ashanti were performing surgical operations when the English still tattooing themselves with blue dragons.
Have a seat, George.
What a powerful performance from the members of Students of Color and Allies for Equity, Justice, and Inclusion. We'd like to now transition over to an update from the Ad Hoc Commemoration Establishment Committee, also known as the ACE Committee. The The ACE Committee was created by the Reading Select Board to honor the legacy of Bill Russell while also confronting the history of racism he and his family experienced in town. The ACE Committee's work is designed to align with the town's broader commitments to diversity, equity, and social justice, ensuring that Reading becomes a more welcoming and inclusive community for all. Welcome, ACE Committee. Hello, my name is Taylor Gregory. I'm the chair of the Ad Hoc Commemoration Establishment Committee, formed to honor the legacy of Bill Russell while confronting the history of racism that he and his family experienced while living in Reading. As part of our charge, we are developing educational programs, fostering community dialogue on equity and inclusion, and planning events to celebrate Russell's values of justice, sportsmanship, and civil rights. The ACE Committee's work aligns with the town's broader commitment to diversity, equity, and social justice, as well as the town's efforts to become a more welcoming and inclusive community. I want to invite everyone to join us this Thursday, January 22nd at 7 p.m. at the Reading Public Library for the first session in the Game Changers series. This will be a mixed media series that combines book and film discussions, with the first session focused on Bill Russell's first book, Pull Up for Glory. You can find more information about the event on the Reading Public Library website. Future sessions will focus on the documentary Bill Russell, My Life, My Way, and the book Red and Meat by Bill Russell. We hope you can join us for this important series, and we welcome the community to learn more about our charge and submit feedback on the town's website. Thank you.
Thank you, ACE Committee. We now have a performance of We Resist, originally written by Mark Miller, but performed here today by Ipswich River Community Chorus. So please welcome Ipswich River Community Chorus.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay, or should I use the mic? Okay, good. This is a wonderful piece written by Mark Miller. This is a really great opportunity for you to also do some singing. This is called We Resist. It's a prayer chant. It's very repetitive. So I am going to teach it to you by rote, which means I'll sing a line and then you'll sing a line back to me. And then we'll all sing it together. Okay, the words are, we resist, we refuse to let hatred in, we rise up, we won't back down, we're in this till the end. This is not about whether you have a good voice or whether you are comfortable singing in a room full of people. That goes for you too. You too. This is about the words and the conviction with which you sing them. Can you give me another deep sound? We resist. We resist. We refuse. We refuse to let hatred in. To let hatred in. We rise up. We
Beautiful performance of We Resist by Ipswich River Community Chorus. Thank you. We will now turn it over to London Stiff Nichols for an introduction of our keynote speaker, Dr. Robert Bellinger.
Good morning, everyone. My name is London Stiff Nichols. I'm a sophomore at RMHS and a member of Students of Colors and Allies for Equity, Justice, and Inclusion, and a member of the Ad Hoc Commemoration Establishment Committee, also known as ACE. I have the great honor of introducing our keynote speaker, Dr. Robert Bellinger. Dr. Robert Bellinger has a BA in Psychology and Black Studies from Amherst College, a Master's of Education from Harvard Graduate School of Education, and a PhD in History from Boston College. Dr. Bellinger is an independent public historian through his consultancy, Writing Histories. He leads projects on African American history, locally and nationally. Currently, Dr. Bellinger is completing a manuscript on Black residents of Lexington, Massachusetts from 1690 to 1820 in collaboration with the Lexington History Museums. Dr. Bellinger serves on the boards of the Robbins House, the Shirley Eustace House, Rediscover Mapledale, and Middleton Place. Dr. Bellinger is a member of the Sons of the American Revolution, the Massachusetts Historical Society, the Colonial Society of Massachusetts, and the African American Historical and Genealogical Society. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Robert Bellinger.
Good morning. Let me first say thank you to London for that introduction. Let me also give thanks to Alginetta Stiff and Albert Pless and the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Justice for inviting me to be with you here to celebrate Dr. King today. And let me also give recognition to Andrea Hall and Alana Villegas, who are wonderful MCs today. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, even though I didn't look forward to getting out in the snow, as I'm sure most of you did not. We are here today to honor Dr. King and to think about his vision of a beloved community. We are also on the doorsteps of the American Union's 250th birthday. The intersection of these two events is significant because Dr. King, as the head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, said that his mission was to save the soul of America. Now, when we think about the beloved community, we have to think about the various pillars that make it up. Dr. King, we're all familiar with his embrace of nonviolence, and often we think of that as one of the tactics he used, but it was also a pillar of the beloved community. However, it was only one of the pillars. The idea of the beloved community was of a community that was inclusive, one that valued diversity, diverse identities and experiences. It was interdependent. It recognized that the well-being of each person is tied to the well-being of all. It practiced justice and equity, ensuring everyone shares the earth's wealth and has equal access to flourishing. And this community was built on the idea of agape love, a deep, selfless love for all humanity. Now, as I thought about the relationship between the recognition of Dr. King and the birth of America, there is one question I've been asking, and which I am sure that Reverend King thought about. How do you shine the light of a beloved community in a time of darkness? As an historian, I often look to the past for insights into questions. So I look back over the 250 years of the life of this nation for moments when the ideas of the beloved community were illuminated. Now, there are a lot of influences that I have that go beyond textbooks and historic research. When I think about history, I'm also always drawn back to one of my favorite films of all time, Daughters of the Dust. It's a story that is narrated by a character called the unborn child. And in thinking about the past, the unborn child says, we recall, we remember, and we recollect. I love that. It sticks with me because it's different ways of thinking about and exploring history. To recall, to summon, to return, to bring back to the moment. To remember, to think of again or retain in memory. And to recollect, to recover knowledge of memory, but also to absorb it in spiritual meditation. Now, before I explore some of the touch points for the concept of a beloved community, there are a couple of things I want to point out. 4 years ago, in 2022, we reached an unrecognized milestone, 246 years. I'm not sure if that means anything to anyone, but 246 years is the number of years that there was slavery in the United States. It wasn't until 2022 that the United States was independent for as long as there was slavery in the U.S. And it will be 2111 when black people will have been free in the U.S. for as long as they have been enslaved. That just gives us some sense of this timeline of history. It tells us a great deal about it and also about why we are still battling with competing visions of what the country is about. If we go back to the 18th century founding, we begin to find the beloved community. When Dr. King spoke at the March on Washington in 1963, he presented a sense of the beloved community and its American foundation. He said, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Notice his first statement was that it's deeply rooted in the American dream. This was towards the end of his speech. At the start of his speech, he framed it with another section from that memorable phrase of the Declaration of Independence. He said, when the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. The note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The equality of all men and women in a society where all lives are valued, where rights are recognized and respected, and where one is not persecuted for being different, are foundational principles for Dr. King. And one could argue they are foundational principles of America. Now, when I was teaching, I often had my students read the Declaration of Independence from beginning to end and analyze it. But I also had them read other documents along with that, particularly some of the petitions that were put into governments by free and enslaved African Americans, both before and after the Declaration of Independence, because they had the same kind of language in there, because these ideas of inalienable rights were something that was being talked about broadly through the society. One particular document that I've used comes from 1779 New Hampshire, and they mention that the God of nature gave them life and freedom upon the terms of the most perfect equality with other men.
very much similar to what the Declaration of Independence says. But they also continue that they were hoping that the name of slave may not be heard in a land gloriously contending for the sweets of freedom. I love that phrase, the sweets of freedom. Now, I'm sure any of you who have sweet teeth can relate to that. Freedom being something that is sweet, something that you want to taste, something that you want to savor. It's very important. However, after the Declaration, it was followed by the Constitution, which allowed for the continuation of slavery, the establishment of fugitive slave laws, other laws accompanied that limited naturalization to people who were white, and limited other rights. Now, we know that in many places, especially here in Massachusetts, there were those who continued to push for the light of an equal society over the next 80 years. Following the Civil War, a period that sometimes is referred to as the Second Founding came about. Efforts were made to revive a beloved community in America. The freedmen and freed women took part in remaking the world they inhabited. They made the choice, as Dr. King would do a century later, to seek reconciliation, build an inclusive, interdependent society based on justice and equity. They increased voting rights, universal public education, economic rights, and so on. These were accompanied by the Reconstruction Amendments of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, ending slavery, providing birthright citizenship, and establishing voting rights. Now, this was a short-lived period. It was met with a dimming of the light again, accompanied by rulings from the Supreme Court, the assistance of Congress, the collusion of the presidency, political machinations and violence, and all of the Reconstruction-era constitutions were overturned by the end of the 19th century, and an era of repression took over, dominated by the myth of the lost cause that the South fought for reasons of mobility and for states' rights. In 1900, interestingly, was when the Johnsons wrote "Lift Every Voice and Sing," right, which we heard so wonderfully presented by the choir today. Now, one book about that, a book called "May We Forever Stand" by Imani Perry, a wonderful author who's written many books. You should read her, she's a wonderful writer. But in that, she talked about them writing it, and she talked about how in 1900 they had come of age and had looked at the dashed hopes of Reconstruction and ahead to creating dreams anew. Right? The light continued to shine. I should also mention that Imani Perry did a wonderful book on Lorraine Hansberry, who did Raising in the Sun. But that's taking me away from my focus. Now we know in the mid-20th century, Dr. King picked up the challenge of bringing about a beloved community. As I said earlier, he saw his mission as saving the soul of America, redeeming the nation, as he said, from its deep-seated sins, which were primarily racism, but also poverty and war. He hoped to do this through radical moral and spiritual renewal, not just legal changes. He believed America's sin-sick soul needed healing, and he hoped to achieve the nation's founding ideals of equality and justice for all through a transformation of society's heart, extending beyond civil rights to universal human dignity and peace. We champion his work always, but we also recognize that there was a backlash following that. Forces went to work to dismantle civil rights legislation, to create anti-civil rights agendas, and to challenge the progress that was made. Now, we have another glimmer of the beloved community in the 21st century through the encouragement of Yes We Can under President Barack Obama. We had some sense of this beloved community, of the connections we had to one another, of the ability we had to build a society that was inclusive and equitable. Needless to say, there was a vehement backlash to that, which we are experiencing now. And it made me think about the title of Dr. King's last book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? And in that book, in that title, he made it clear, community, working locally. Now, I don't say I have any solutions, but I can say that it is important to work on the local level. It is on the local level that programs can be created and put into practice, which can be modeled, can generate models which can be replicated and scaled up to the larger society. Briefly, local social justice movements can drive policy innovation by delivering benefits to communities on the ground. And this is where I would say there is a wonderful light shining here in Reading. From what I know about the town, it is a town that is deeply engaged in fostering respect, understanding, and belonging to all. I looked at the websites of the many different organizations that are active here in town, and I must say that I was very, very moved and impressed. There's work being done here. There is work that people are engaged in. I was happy to see not only that it's offices like that of Equity and Social Justice or the Select Board, but it's also students of color and allies, because young people were a very, very important part of the civil rights movement and are an important part of building any kind of coalitions that would move us forward. I was very moved to see how many different layers of work was being done. Now, two sections I took off of the websites, which I would probably use in future presentations, because they said something that really spoke to me, not only, well, as a historian particularly. It said, every community in this country carries a stain of racism. In Reading, Massachusetts is no exception. A community learning the hard truths about its history is faced with two choices: dismiss and downplay, or acknowledge and confront. With regard to racism, Reading has resoundingly chosen the latter. While the town recognizes the past, it is committed to fostering a more inclusive and welcoming environment for all residents. We have grown and learned from our history. We hope to strengthen the public perception of the town, showcasing Reading as a positive, welcoming, and inclusive community for all. That is powerful. To face history, to look at it, and say, where do we go from here? How do we move forward? What is the community that we want to have today? That is powerful. Often, we either neglect our history, or, as it says, we try to minimize what that past was. One other thing that I saw in looking at the coalition of us, Cato, it said, Cato envisions a future where racial justice is not just an aspirational, but a lived reality. And that grabbed me because it talks about envisioning the future one of the things I ran into was the importance and the power and the necessity of imagination. My daily meditation said, I use the power of imagination to bring my dreams to life. My imagination is a spiritual gift, an aspect of my divine inheritance. When I imagine, I transcend the limits of the world and touch the realm of unlimited potential. This is so important. Dr. King's vision of a beloved community is often characterized as his dream. But it was more a product of his imagination, because imagination entails consciously dreaming, right? Consciously dreaming, bringing together the ideas you have. They may have come to you at night when you were asleep, but to consciously dream, to imagine, to play with, to build intangibles before you lay the foundation. The imagination is a muscle that needs to be exercised often in order to keep our minds flexible, creative, and able to see beyond what is accepted, known, normal, and understood. I saw an interview once with a NASA scientist, and they asked him, well, what do you read for fun? He said, science fiction. And they said, science fiction? He said, yeah, before we could go to the moon, we had to imagine going to the moon. The power of imagination. We should have classes that allow students to imagine. Right? I know art classes do that. The arts are so important because of the creative possibilities of them. Now, I mention that because my wife is a dance historian and choreographer, and much of her work influences me as well. Now, when she was doing her master's thesis, she did something on Toni Morrison's book, Beloved. And of course, when I thought of the beloved community, that book came to mind. I lived with that book for over a year while my wife worked on her thesis. I listened to it. She'd read it I don't know how many times. But one passage that jumped out at me from that book was when baby Sutton was preparing for a ceremony that was a healing for everyone. And she said, we told them that the only grace they could have was the grace they could imagine. That if they could not see it, they would not have it. Imagination. Imagining where you're going, where you want to be. But it must be grounded as well. Two African proverbs that I love. Do not observe what is before and forget what is behind. By remembering the past, the future is remembered. By remembering the past, the future is remembered. Now, as we look back over history, I know I spoke a lot more about the backlash to the beloved community in the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st centuries. But keep in mind that during that backlash, the light of the beloved community was also present. That there were many activists, artists, freedom fighters, change agents, and other people who chose to make a positive impact on the world. Those are folks we should be studying and learning about. Those are folks who we should be lifting up along with Dr. King. If we populate our imaginations with images and stories of a shared humanity, of our interconnectedness, of our solidarity as people, then we can create a poetic of welcome rather than walls. And that's what we really are trying to build. That's what I see happening here in this wonderful town of Reading. said, imagination is the central formative agency in human society. It's because we can imagine different futures that we can struggle against the present state of things. That's important. We have to think beyond the moment. Where is it that we are going? Where do we go from here, as Dr. King asked? I want to close by quoting Dr. King again. At a speech he gave following the victory of Montgomery bus boycott, he spoke about the importance of the tactic of nonviolence, about the importance of what he was doing. He said, the end is reconciliation. The end is redemption. The end is the creation of the beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opponents into friends. It is this type of understanding, goodwill, that will transform the deep gloom of the old age into the exuberant gladness of the new age. It is this love which will bring about miracles in the hearts of men. So if we continue to work as a community, continue to foster imagination, creative imagination about where we are going, and continue to look critically at our history, the future is bright. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bellinger, for such a powerful speech. We'd now like to bring the audience together for a reading of speeches written by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. All audience members are encouraged to participate.
Our goal is to create a beloved, and this will require qualitative change in our souls as well as a quantitative change in our lives.
I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound to the starless midnight of racism and war, that the bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood can never become reality. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word.
Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter.
Yes, if you want to say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. Say that I was a drum major for righteousness. And all of the other shallow things will not matter. I won't have any money to leave behind. I won't have the fine and luxurious things in life to leave behind. But I just want to leave a committed life behind. And that's all I want to say. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody he or she is traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain.
What is needed is a relation that power without love is relaxed and abusive, and that love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love. Implement it the demands of justice, and justice at its best is love, correcting everything that stands against love. And this is what we must see as we move on.
Change does not roll on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle.
There is no easy way. I repeat, there is no easy way to create a world where man and woman can live together. But if such a world is created in our lifetime, it will be done by rejecting the racism, materialism, and violence that has characterized Western civilization, and especially by working towards a world of brotherhood, cooperation, and peace.
People fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they have not communicated with each other.
I have decided to speak with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear.
Political power as an end, not running economic power as an end. They are ingredients of the objectives that we seek in life. And I think the end of that objective is a truly brotherly society, the creation of the love community.
And this will be the day. This will be the day when all God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountaintop, let freedom ring. If America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightened Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the herbaceous peaks of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain in Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain in Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every mountaintop, let freedom ring. When we let freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village, every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing it in the words of the old Negro spiritual.
Libres al fin, libres al fin. Gracias a Dios Todopoderoso somos libres al fin.
Livres finalmente. Livres finalmente. Graças a Deus Todo-Poderoso, estamos livres finalmente.
Tasununguru, notenda mwari wamasimba ose, tasununguru, pakupedzisira.
Manifund de leer, parzot de protrugisham, imit de jeep de leer.
Free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for participating. What a great choice of speeches to bring us all community members together and remind us why we're all here today. As we near the end of our program, we will turn it over again to Albert Pless, Director of the Office of Equity and Social Justice here in Reading, with our closing remarks.
Another round of applause for our amazing MCs. Seniors. Last time we didn't see them here at high school. Thank you. You guys were amazing. Take a look around for a moment, folks. Just take a look around yourselves. You look beautiful from this spot. And so you are what makes this event happen. You know, and I'm gonna acknowledge my planning members in a minute, but we did a lot of hard work. But an event like this doesn't happen without your participation, without your full involvement, okay? Taking part in the different songs, nodding, singing, everything you were doing. So thank you so much for that, because at the end of the day, that's what we walk away with. You know, I'm gonna make a few plugs. You know, one plug is for, and we're gonna bring it up in a moment, we're gonna make a plug for the evaluation. We really wanna make sure that we get your feedback. Not all great things, even though that Albert guy was great, but we don't want that all to be on the evaluation forms. We want you to tell us how we can improve this event every year, okay? So when you get those forms, you get that Google link, please let us know, because we want your feedback, okay? I want a few thank yous too, and I'm gonna have them throw their hands up because they are behind the scenes, but they have made this event happen. So I wanna do some name calling. Janetta, throw your hand up. Anna, throw your hand up. Winnie, throw your hand up. Reggie, throw your hand up. Desiree, throw your hand up. And two people, Sherella, throw your hand up. Two people who are not here today also just were a key part of this planning team, Linda Slowdoxer and Michelle, who was our librarian assistant director. So that team is what made this work, you know, and so a lot of hard work. We went through like 15 iterations of the program. I had my idea, they left it back 3 months ago. So, you know, but anyway, really great teamwork for that. So I want to make a couple more plugs. One is for what we call PAIR, and the acronym stands for Partners and Allies for an Inclusive Reading. It's one of the initiatives out of my office. Essentially, you're at a PAIR event now. And so I want to make a plug for you to join us with PAIR. I know a lot of you may have joined us a few years ago when my predecessor started it, and I want to encourage you to revisit us. Okay, we are working on a relaunch in March, so stay tuned for that. If you've added your information to our listserv, we're going to get information about that relaunch. But until then, we're going to hold our second annual Black History Trivia Month event next month. So look for that and join us really at that amazing event. As I kind of close up, folks, you know, again, events like this don't happen without your participation. Please join us in our work. And the last two things is, you know, when we think about what's happening right now in Reading, I think our keynotes are a lot of amazing things. Again, another round of applause for our keynote. Reading is doing a lot of great stuff. You're doing a lot of great stuff. And those things that Dr. Bellinger referenced, that's you. You know, and so let's continue to build this community. Let's continue to be an example for other communities around us, and they be looking and saying, wow, those folks are ready to do some cool stuff, right? Let's keep doing that, okay? That being said, I'm gonna move off the mic and turn it over to Andy and our choir. We're gonna bring everyone up and we're gonna sing this little light of mine, okay? Last thing, we would love a group photo, okay? Again, if you have a sticker on, if you don't want to be part of that, that's fine, but our photographer who's floating around is going to have you stay where you are. He may bring you together a little bit. He's going to come up here and take a group photo for us, okay? So if anyone doesn't want to be part of that, you can step to the side and we respect that, okay? Cool. And first fireside chat here for our MLK event. We have a couple questions that Dr. Bellis and I are just gonna kind of have a little chat about. We would love to, if you could be thinking, so we have 2 questions, and if there's one question that you have that's burning for you, we'll kind of take, maybe 2, that you want us to just chat about. Again, and there's no kind of right or wrong answers here, it's just like having a conversation, okay? So Dr. Bellis and I, we're having a conversation, again, we're sitting around the fire, with you with us, okay? So again, we'll be about 15, 20 minutes for this. The first question that Dr. Bellis and I are going to kind of grapple a little bit with, and again, we're thinking about it for ourselves too, is do we feel like the I Have a Dream speech was successful? When Dr. King, did that amazing speech, do we feel like that speech, we succeeded in what Dr. King was trying to get us to kind of operate or do during the speech? So that's the first question for us. Do we feel like I Have a Dream speech was successful? Let you go ahead and start, and I'll chime in.
One thing I would say, I would suggest that everyone read the speech in its entirety. When I was teaching, I had my students listen to the speech, the whole speech, right? Because often we focus on the final part where he talks about the dream, right? And the whole speech says a lot more. When he talks about the Declaration and the Constitution being a promissory note, something that was promised, and that when we came forward and said, let's live up to the promise, they said, oh, we're bankrupt, right? We don't have the funds to follow up on this. When he talks about how now is the time, you get a sense of the urgency, right? When he says, we cannot be satisfied, you get a sense of what he's talking about, right? There are many things he says. It's a powerful speech. And if you read the whole thing, by the time you get to the dream, you begin to understand the power of that vision. And we also have to remember that that part of the speech was pushed forward by Mahalia Jackson, the great gospel singer. She was on the stage and she said, tell them about the dream, Martin. Right? Tell them about the dream. And then he began to talk about that part. But if you read the whole thing, or if you watch him give it, oh my goodness, it is like a lesson in oratory, right? His imagery, right? When he talks about, governors with their lips dripping with the words of interposition. I mean, he paints the imagery and he gives power. So yeah, the whole speech is what we need to be really listening to and having students read.
It makes me think again how, from growing up, I didn't necessarily always read all the speeches about the King. I think a lot was that product that I knew a few features, knew a few words, and obviously the I Have a Dream speech was one of the things. When I think about, and I think the word success is probably a big word, right? Having been successful. When I think about how we move the needle, it kind of maybe I define the person a bit more, redefine it. I think we have had people, Dr. Bellis kind of mentioned the other parts of the speech, but really thinking beyond themselves, right? Dreaming, And I think sometimes that word dream has been viewed as a passive word. You're just dreaming. Well, I think it's a powerful thing to dream, and it's a powerful thing to now realizations that Bellis was saying earlier, just to think about what can be possible, the imagination. So when I think about that way that we've been able, for generations, to be able to encourage not just young, but young at heart, to dream, lean into what it is that you believe is right. Try something new, try something different. Embrace that idea. You may be the only one in your community that's doing that thing, and that's fine. I remember just on a personal note, my oldest daughter, who we're in Winchester, and she's 26 now, and she was nervous about wanting to start the first Black student union at the school. And I remember my wife and I we would sit down, and she was just like, oh, I don't want to be the first, I want to be first. And I remember we just, and we were trying to find our own words to encourage her, but we just had her just think about, what's possible, you know, and you're not gonna have to, this is not perfection. You just need to think about what you want here and give it a shot. Now, again, history tells itself she was part of a group to start the first Black Student Union at Winchester High School, which has now been built on by her younger sister, my youngest one, this year. So again, things that's possible, thinking beyond what you think is possible. I think about that. Any questions from the audience you guys want us to mellow as I pull up my second question?
As he's pulling up the question, several years back, a term that became very much a part of popular conversation was the term Afrofuturism. And I've heard that term used in other ways, indigenous futurism as well. And, you know, the best definition I had of that, because people said, oh, it's this, that, and the other. And someone said, well, if you think back to a person who was enslaved, and as they were thinking about being free, said that's Afrofuturism. They were thinking about a future that was not yet in place, right? So we have to all be futuristic from wherever we are and thinking about where do we want to see society? What kind of world do we want to live in? And that gives us the tools to begin to fashion that world.
So we have young people in the audience. I just referenced my building, shamelessly plug. And what advice would we give our young activists, our young people who are really trying to pick up that mantle and move? What kind of advice would we give them to do this work?
Wow, that's a very powerful question. And I would say one is to continue learning. And when I say learning, don't limit yourself. Stretch big, stretch wide, right? Get engaged in the arts. Be creative. The arts are so important because the essence of arts is creativity. Whether you're talking about music, dance, any kind of visual arts, photography, there's a creative spark to that. And that keeps you exercising that part of your brain that allows you to think and imagine and begin to put together things, make connections between things that may not have been connected by others, right? Engage in the arts, even if it's not something you plan to do as a profession, right? Every young person should have some art in their holster, in their activist holster, right? Sing, dance, draw, all of those things are important. And also, keep reading. Read everything, right? Explore everything, right? When I was younger, I guess I was about 8th grade, I remember I came across a poem by an African-American writer, and it hit me. I was like, wow, I had never thought about poetry by folks who look like me. I want to learn more. I used to go to our town library a lot. I spent probably several months. I went to the poetry section in the library. And there was probably a more efficient way to do it, but I was in the 8th grade. I went starting at the top book, and I went through every book of poetry in the library, looking for poems by African-American authors. And when I found some that spoke to me, I wrote them out in longhand on a yellow pad, right, trying to keep the meter where it was. And then at night I would go home and on this little typewriter I had, I would start typing it out, right? I still have that notebook. Most of them aren't typed, but I did that because I was captivated. And that's how I learned about poetry, right? And it was wonderful. I didn't get a grade for it. No one really knew I was doing it. But I was gaining a love for imagery, for the way words could express themselves. And I was fortunate to be able to then study with some fantastic poets during my time in college. Right? So, but that was the first love. And in 8th grade, I had lots of time. Right? When you're in school, you tend to have a lot of time in addition to your studies. That's the time to pick up arts. That's the time to pursue the things that you might find interesting. Because also, in doing that, you find communities of people who share those interests, right? You find communities of people who may have never thought of those interests, who you can get going, right? But always stretch yourself beyond where you are. That's the key for activism, I would say. Be willing to go the distance, right? Don't ever sell yourself short.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think about this idea a lot of times when young people, and again, I have a few at home, and so we think about when they bring these things up, sometimes it's like, but I'm afraid. And I think embracing fear, I think it's okay to be afraid. I think it's okay to, it's kind of scary out there, and trying something that either is new or that may be new to your community or new to, a group that you're a part of, could be scary. I think embracing that fear, not running from that fear, not or not saying, well, I'm afraid and that's the reason why I'm not going to do it. Embrace the fear. And I think just being able to, I play a lot of team sports, and I think one thing I think about is like, what's your part? What's your role? And I think this whole idea of like just doing your part, doing your piece. Doing your piece now. I have a really great colleague actually who was here in the Reading School District for a while. She used to always talk about the fact that we had a conversation on, well, why were we born when we were born? What's our significance now? And so thinking about like, there were people obviously born before us and there are going to be people born after us. But why am I born now? And asking yourself those, grappling with those questions. And as young people, I think it's so important to think about like what your kind of reasoning for being here during this time now, and not fighting that, embracing that. But I do think it's a certain skill set Dr. Bell just spoke to in terms of this idea of being an activist. It does require you to have to do a little work, and I agree in terms of this whole idea of like thinking beyond yourself. Getting back to his speech again, this imagination, imagining that you can be doing this thing, And the last thing I'll say about it is I think that we have a lot of great examples. You have a lot of great examples. It may even start in your own home. You may have people right in front of you, your parents, your aunts, your uncles, folks in your neighborhood that aren't just people that are on a bunch of, big programs or things like that. You may have activists right in the community, our church leaders. There's people that are doing this work that could be examples for you. So I encourage you as young people and even young at heart to go have conversations with these people. Talk to your parents. Talk about, how they were doing in college and things that they were struggling with and how they wanted to change the world if they wanted to, and then extend that beyond maybe to the folks in your community, again, church leaders and others, who are doing this work. I've embraced this idea of doing service. I'm a service employee. I work for the town of Reading. And I do think that there's another 270 of me in this town of Reading that all in some way, some form or fashion, sign that name on the dotted line to give up service. And I just think that we also are people that you can look to say, well, why are you doing that work for the benefit of the Reading residents? So we have one more question.
Well, several things you said. One, about community and teamwork, right? Those are important skills. Being part of communities and learning teamwork, whether that's in a choir, on a sports team, or whatever. Being able to work with others. Knowing when, because it's not always just about you, right? But how do you work with others? How do you share ideas? How do you learn from each other? And yesterday afternoon, I went to this wonderful play at the Cambridge Multicultural Arts Center called Martin and Stokely, right? And it was a play written about a conversation between Dr. Martin Luther King and Stokely Carmichael and a couple of other members of SNCC. That did take place, but no one has a record of it, but he wrote this play. And if you know Stokely Carmichael, he was the head of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and they were the ones who came out with the term Black Power, right, which was different than King's position. But the two had these conversations about how they were different, how they were similar, what was going on. And by working with community, you realize often that even though you may not be striving for the same thing, you may be working against the same thing, right? So you have a common purpose, even though you're headed in directions that might be slightly different. Teamwork helps with that. And the other thing is talking with people. Talking with your elders, listening. Not just seeking out someone because, oh, that's an important person, but seeking out someone just because you have conversations, just because there's someone to talk to. Now, in another lifetime, when I was teaching kindergarten and first grade, it was another lifetime, one of the responsibilities I had was to take the young folks out to the playground every day, rain or shine, because you cannot have a kindergarten class that hasn't had a chance to run off some energy during the day, and the afternoons would be crazy if you couldn't get out to that playground. So I'd go out to the playground, and there was a gentleman there who I would talk to every day. He would come with his daughter, who's not yet old enough for kindergarten. And his son was in my class. His other son was in the class next door, his daughter was in the class. And we talked every day during the year and a half that I worked there. And we had great conversations about all kinds of topics. Not about activism, not about anything else. But we just had great conversations. And I really enjoyed talking with him. He had the calmest demeanor of people I knew. And I knew his wife as well, but it was wonderful. About maybe 8, 9 years later, I was preparing one of my lessons for a class, and I'm going through doing the civil rights era. And I'm going through, and all of a sudden I see this picture, and I realize, oh, that was Bob Moses. Right? And if you don't know, Bob Moses was the architect of the 1964 summer project in Mississippi that led to voting rights. And I had never made the connection. I knew his name, but didn't make the connection, right? That's who I was talking to. And so it was just wonderful to know him and to know his work later in the Algebra Project and to talk with him about that, but having had the opportunity to teach his children. Right? And I had the wonderful opportunity to meet many activists in the civil rights movement. I was a little young to be active at the time, but I met many of those who were because I ended up being a teacher to many of their children or being friends with their children. Right? And so you begin to know that there are people all around you who have a lot to offer. They may not be someone you say, oh, he's doing this now, but you never know. She might have been doing something 2 years ago that you can gain from. So cherish the community that you're in. Talk to people, especially talk to your elders, because they didn't get old just by being around. They learned some things along the way. And also, talk to the young ones, because they'll keep your imagination alive.
We're going to turn the curve a little bit towards the end, and I want to just say, Dr. Bellinger did a name drop, and I want to have young people, young at heart, do a research on Bob Moses, okay? And just write that name down, put it in your phone, Bob Moses. I got the pleasure to meet his son, Omar Moses, maybe the one you were referencing, and when I was working in Cambridge. Absolutely. He continued his father's work. So some of this, again, is just, it's amazing when we think about the small world that we're in. But again, name drop on you, Bob Moses, even his son's work around Omar Moses. Any questions from the group before we turn to our last
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much for your work and education to present these things to us. So I'll just say I've been on a journey of learning, and last fall I went to a talk. I don't know if you would know Kelly Brown Douglas, but I heard her speak, and she sort of alerted me to this sort of pattern of backlash, like a progress and then backlash. And you know, she said it was most of it I was aware of, but I've never seen it as a pattern. And so I just, and then, you know, I love how you mentioned Afrofuturism. So do you hold those in tension? Do you hold that, you know, with, wow, we've made progress, and yet there's this, you know, pattern of sometimes like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, along with the Afrofuturism, like embracing the future. I don't know if that's making sense, but it frightened me a little bit as I heard her talking about this. And so I just wondered if you could speak to that.
That pattern is very real, as I mentioned. And one of the challenges that we've had in this country is the challenge of accountability. Right? We have not been good at holding those who push the backlash accountable for that. And we need to really study our history to know. Right? One of the least taught sections of American history is Reconstruction and the post-Reconstruction era. Right? And that's when those who tried to destroy the country were not held accountable. Were not only not held accountable, but were allowed to champion their point of view and memorialize their point of view, right? And they were not held accountable. It was not said, well, this is anti-American, right? Instead, there were military bases named after them, statues raised, et cetera, as if this was on par with the positive things that we saw this country do. We see that most recently, those who were engaged in January 20th have not been held accountable. If we do not hold people accountable for their misdeeds, then we don't have a baseline to say this is acceptable and this is not. And so we have to get stronger on accountability, right? Allowing for reconciliation doesn't mean that you don't hold people accountable, right? You can't have reconciliation without accountability.
I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to speak. I don't know if this is the right time for me to say anything, but I do have something to say. And I love what you guys are doing. And this is my wife, Linda, and I'm Robert Ayala. We live here in Reading for about 50 years. We have been married for 60 years. We got 13 grandchildren. And I like to say to young people that we have individually, we can't save the world. But individually, we can do little things with great love. And we're called to do that. And if we just embrace our God, embrace our religion, and share with our neighbor, with people we meet on the street, we can change our comfort level. We all have a comfort level. But it's very hard to cross into a higher level. And I've learned from old, I'm old, 80 years old. You can address your neighbor and say, how's the world treating you? And listen, because they have a lot to say. And everybody's carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. And we can say, appreciate what is coming from, but say, remember, God's in charge. If you can't handle it, give it to Him, and He will. And just raise the comfort level where you can talk to people, and instead of just saying to someone, have a nice day, you can say, God bless your day. You're not alone. Understand it. It's all wonderful, wonderful stuff that you're doing. And we, for the kids, everybody's younger than me almost, right? You can change your comfort level where you can talk to your neighbor, embrace your neighbor, and treat them with respect and love, and that passes around. We can do a little bit in each one of us.
So, thank you so much for that. And again, Dr. Belzer teed it up. We definitely talked to our elders. We have an elder there. He's a Reading resident. All those who are young and young at heart. Have a conversation, if not today, I'm pretty sure, at some point, maybe in some spot in Reading, coffee shop somewhere, you have someone to run into, you have a conversation. But we have an elder right there, to have a conversation, to learn, and vice versa. So, Dr. Belzer and I are going to grapple with this last question, which is a question, right? What is the most important question that we should be asking ourselves now? During this time, what's the most important question that we should be grappling with? Again, not that there's one central question, but there's a question that's probably rising to the top. Dr. Belzer and I are going to just toss out our thoughts around that, and then we're going to close it up, okay?
Yeah, that's probably one of the more difficult questions that you've asked, is what are some of the questions that we need to be thinking about? And so I'll say that the question is, where do we go from here? I think that's a very significant question.
I love the question around, that I alluded to earlier, what's my role? What's my responsibility? I think, I forgot your name again, the gentleman who spoke earlier. Robert just kind of said to us, so yeah, what is something that, we can do, that small thing? So what is my role, what's my responsibility?
How about the question, how did we get here?
Love it. So the question, if we want to hear it, how did we get here? Again, just not assuming that we got here by accident, which we know. But yeah, that's a whole seminar around that we could do. But that's it's a great question, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to explore that and to understand the history of how we got here, so that as we think about where do we go from here, we have a foundation for that. And also keep in mind, as we're talking about purpose, we each have a purpose of some kind. There may be multiple purposes. But, also as you think about being activists, remember, there's no one form of activism, right? You may be an artist who paints a mural that when people pass by, they think about, what you put in that mural. You might be a writer. You might be a singer who, when you open your mouth to sing, it sends shivers down people's spines and they begin to say, wow, I want to get active in something, right? Find your purpose. That's the key to your activism. What is it that you do well? What is it that you want to do? What is it that makes you smile when you do it, right? It may not be something in one of your academic classes. It may be something you do as soon as you get home, right? You start drawing. You might be a comic book creator, and comic books, they can be something that pass on information, that raise issues, right? Whatever you do it with passion, do it with love, and be willing to share it.
So that's going to conclude our fireside chat. I'm hoping the questions that we were grappling with a little bit, these are questions that folks have been grappling with for a long time. And so I'm hoping that this kind of gave you a little bit more of a little inspiration, maybe a little bit more knowledge, but if nothing else, just kind of opened you up to whatever questions that you may have, or other things that, you know. So again, Dr. Bellinger, thank you for a round of applause, Dr. Bellinger. And I'm here. I'm your town rep. And I say that meaning that we're going to continue to build on all the things that Dr. Bellinger referenced in his speech, but also the questions that we can do that here in Reading. We can do those things. My office is wide open for, you know, this collaboration and this partnership with you. So thank you again for coming.